Welcome to Revlog. I feel like we're a man down every week.
We're
these days.
Aaronless. Yeah, we are.
I've been out quite a bit. Aaron's been out. You've been the stalwart here.
I've been the one consistent voice.
I don't know.
Through the storm. I don't know.
Maybe we should bring in guests for these when we can't all be there. I don't know. Maybe we bring in a real expert or something to sit in the extra chair.
You know, those old TV shows, late night TV shows, used to bring in guest hosts sometimes.
That's right. Those were never as good, though.
No, never as good.
But maybe we should think about bringing a guest in.
Yeah. Jake. No.
Jake. No, we're not bringing Jake in. I don't know. We can do randomized choices or something.
Lottery system.
Yeah, a lottery system. Either lay people or staff. I don't know. We could go across the board. Whoever's commented the most on our YouTube videos.
Yeah,
that would be fun.
All right.
Yeah. Well, today I think I'm just kind of biding my time here because
this is a lot of verses.
It is a lot of verses. We've got 4 chapters we're going through today. It's Elihu. It's his response to the
Elihu?
Yes.
Who? Elihu.
So this is the 4th friend. And so we've had
heretofore unknown,
right? Because it's been 3 friends in the conversation up until this point. Now we come to Job 32, and lo and behold, there's a 4th man.
Yeah, and it's like he wasn't even important enough to mention.
Well, that's kind of how he begins.
Tagging along or something,
right? I mean, that's kind of how he begins this conversation.
He's a kid.
He says, I'm just a kid. I've been deferring to you, my elders. But every one of you are explicitly wrong. And I'm angry. It's kind of how he begins. But yeah, we have this 4th friend. There's a lot of speculation about this 4th friend, where he comes from, who he is. He has unique figure, unique words. And so there's lots of speculation, but I think we just take it at face value. He's the 4th friend that's there. He's sharing his heart. And so as you work through these 4 chapters and his discourse, both for the other 3 friends and for Job, what struck you as you read through these passages?
Well, his reticence to speak up. He's been silent. He's listened to all of these utterances from the other friends.
And doesn't he say, I'm 20 years younger than you all or something like that, right? So he's a younger man. I don't know.
He's, as you said, just a kid, I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill or whatever, He's just this kid, and he's heard all of this. And I was thinking about the what it's like to be a kid in a world of ostensibly wiser heads, just and you have your own ideas,
right?
Somebody I read called Elihu or Elihu, whatever, an angry young man, that just sort of the passion of youthfulness here, and I think that's what's on display. I don't mean that it's just vapid and empty. But it's but there's a lot of passion here.
Yeah. Well, I think the text explicitly states he's angry.
Yeah.
He talks about being angry.
And he takes an entire chapter to basically give this disclaimer. He says, I know I'm young. I know that I've not seen all that you've seen in the world. A lot of people discount what I say. But I've got all this energy inside me, and I've got all these words. They're on the tip of my tongue. And he goes through the entire, I think it's the entire chapter 32, just setting this up. Mm-hmm. And then he launches into what he has to say, which I think, Chris, is he doesn't really bring any incredibly new revelation, but what he does is he seems to, as I understand it, he seems to say nobody has the answer here.
Right.
Job, you've not made the case 3 friends, God love you, but you're not saying anything that is getting to the core issue. He seems to say, I'm not sure what the core issue is, but I know what it's not.
And none of you have gotten it right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think there is something good that we have him show up at this point. And this is what I mean. One of the things that we celebrated about Job's 3 friends is it says, 1, they come to him, and 2, they sit with him for a week without speaking.
Yeah, and let me just say again, when you talked about that on that Sunday a few weeks ago, it was just, we needed to hear that so much about that component of friendship, and they did it well.
Yeah, they got that right.
Yeah.
When they come in and they start leveling accusations against Job, they don't know what they're talking about. But before they open their mouths, it was as beautiful a picture of friendship as you'll find. They come to meet him on the ash heap in his pain, and they sit with him for a week.
Yeah.
In a similar way, this 4th young man comes in and he lets his elders speak. So there is a sense of wisdom in this. In the same kind of way, he's deferring to them and he's waiting. He's kept his mouth shut. And this is both respectful and wise, and lends some credence to what he's saying.
Right.
And so he comes in and he says, I have been quiet. I've listened carefully. And like you said, this whole first chapter is him, setting all this up, saying, I've deferred to you. I know I'm young. I know all of these other things. But then he just starts swinging, right? So then he comes in.
The gloves come off.
The gloves come off, and he starts swinging. He says he's angry at Job. He says he's angry at the 3 friends. He says, you guys have missed this. All of you have, and let me tell you what I'm seeing. And as he does seem to come in swinging, I do want to give him credit that he waits and is careful about how he does it.
Absolutely. He is not just talking to hear himself talk.
No.
He clearly is bothered. Mm-hmm. He's got some dissonance going on inside of him, and he needs to express this, and he does. And even though he doesn't arrive at a definitive answer, and clarity doesn't just begin to emanate from all of this, that comes later. Mm-hmm. More clarity comes later when God himself speaks. But even though that doesn't happen here, I think one of the important things here, Chris, is that what we can all see is that all of the conventional wisdom up to this point, where they've gotten to in their culture, it's not preparing the next generation. It's not, it has come up empty. There are some good things in what they say, mm-hmm. but the way that they deploy these arguments in the face of reality is not turning out to be satisfactory. It's not meeting the need of this rising generation here. They're seeing a world that doesn't fit with what the wisdom beforehand has offered. Yeah. And so that is significant. And so that posits a question, which I guess we'll get to later. But I think the bottom line of the point of that I was trying to say here is this younger generation is not finding what they're looking for in the case of this young man.
Yeah, I'm grateful too. And one more point until we get questions here. I do appreciate where we end here with him. It's chapter 37, and he gives another beautiful description of who God is.
Yeah,
and it's very similar to God's own words and how God is described previously in the book, mm-hmm. Where he looks at Job and the 3 friends and says, "Who are you?"
Right.
And where were you when God created the earth? And where were you when God set the heavens and the stars in their places?
Yeah, those words passed through Elihu's lips before God says that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so he gives us a clear theology and represents God in a holy way that all of them need to hear. And so I am grateful for where he brings it. And where I'm going is I'm grateful for either end of these passages with him, just his first, how he approaches this conversation, and then lastly, how he ends with this deep theological conviction of who God is. And I think he's on to something in both cases there.
He is.
So let's get to questions. So as you read this, what question did you have of the text?
Well, first, let me say that this young man, again, I think is saying, I'm seriously looking for something that is true and that is eternal, and I am not finding it in what you're saying to me.
Yeah.
I want to find it, but I'm not finding it. And I think so I would formulate the question as, where can I find the truth? I don't want to hear your great ideas. I want to hear the truth. Where can I find the truth?
That's good.
A lot of people aren't impressed with, what we have to offer. And if we, and I say we, just people of faith, Christians, the church, oftentimes we think, well, how on the one hand we say how we've always done it is the way that you will take that and you will like it, and it's a very short distance to go from the faith once delivered to the saints to, in practice, how we've always done it. There's a difference between those two things. It's a nuanced difference. But the faith once delivered to the saints is what we need to take people to.
Yeah.
And we don't always do that. Right. We mediate it through our own sensibilities of what we think is good and true. And people are saying, where
is the truth?
Is the truth.
Yeah. And I think we see that with Job's friends. They have this background of truth, but much of what they're speaking is speculation.
Yeah.
Right? And they're speculating about the effects of truth or other things. They're going way beyond the foundation of truth.
That's true. Yeah, I think that's right.
And I think for me, I think the question of this text, and it's something I do wonder about in a general sense, is what does it look like to have a healthy argument? So you see this with the friends coming in with Job, and I think by and large, I think what we see in Job is a healthy argument throughout.
Yeah.
And I think this is another sign of that. The younger man saying, I've deferred to you. I think this is a good and healthy way to do that. Mm-hmm. But you need to hear what I think, and I need to tell my side of this story too. And just what does this look like to have a healthy argument? So we now have 5 men here in this story of Job, mm-hmm. right? The 3 friends, Job, and this new 4th friend, the young man. Is this a healthy argument, or what does it look like to have a healthy argument about deep and eternal things?
I love that question because we have fumbled that ball, mm-hmm. I think, often in our culture, within and without the church. When you said that, I thought of this is like back in the 90s, mm-hmm. The old CNN crossfire shows.
Yeah.
People were just shouting over each other, and
And there's
theater.
a certain subset of people who love that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's what argument turns into, is those people who love to argue and yell, they become just everything. And then everybody else just sort of shrinks into the background, and the people that like to yell just yell at each other.
That's right.
And so how do we bring thoughtfulness, and those of us who don't want to just yell over the other people yelling, mm-hmm. and where do we find and how do we find healthy argument?
Right.
And what does that look like?
It's no longer seen in Crossfire. It's Twitter now. But I think that if there ever was a time for a healthy argument, it is now, because the stakes are so high. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In this day and time.
And one of the things I do love, what we see in Job and his friends, and this young man is they take time and chapters to reason out their argument. Mm-hmm. It's not 140 characters.
It's slow.
It is slow. It is methodical. It is them taking the time to work through their position, where most people today want some kind of pithy phrase.
That's right.
Or a one sentence argument. And that's all we can deal with. And I think back, I was talking with
we want to, he owned him.
Right.
We want that kind of.
Yeah, well, and I was talking with some friends the other day in the church, and we were talking. I didn't know this, but the original Lincoln Douglas debates. When you made a statement, often those would take 45 minutes or an hour, like for your opening statement, and then it would be like a 45-minute rebuttal.
And
right?
This is the way reasoning works. It's the way that give and take actually works, and we're trying to short circuit that process, and it doesn't get us anywhere. It just tribalizes and faction, breaks us up into factions.
And so I think Job and his friends could teach us something about argument, because I don't think we have good and healthy places to argue around us.
You remember in the Lord of the Rings books, the Ents, they talked very slowly, and it would take a day for them to say yes, because it was just like a long,
We need more of that.
Yeah, we do.
Well, we missed Pastor Aaron today.
Yes, we did.
Lord willing, he'll be back next week.
Yeah.
But we would love to hear your thoughts on all of these chapters if you would comment below.